Bill and Peter Axon, born in Pirrie, 1943, and my dad was at war, and lived on Senate Road right at the top. Went to Pirrie West School with a group of people. As kids, we used to all walk to school. I can remember it vividly. And a pretty fair childhood. My dad died because of the war, and so Mum was bringing us up. We were at that time pretty poor, she told me later in years. And Kerry, my sister, and I were nearly going to be fostered out. But our grandparents had semi-retired, and so they took Kerry and I and Mum in, and so we lived with them from when I was about 9 till I got into my teenage years. But they were just absolutely beautiful parents, and I thank my granddad for teaching me a lot of good values in life and how to do things. He used to say, know a little bit about everything and tell anyone else nothing. So that's how we sort of lived. And then some more family members came to live with us, and so there was 9 in the house. No one was working, and Grandad fed us out of the backyard. He used to run about 100 ducks, chooks, pigeons, his garden, dried fruit and veg, all that sort of thing, which I try and keep doing every year now. So it was a pretty, good childhood. Went to school, got bullied quite a bit, and that's why even today I attack bullies. I just can't stand them. And then at school I got expelled. I was getting the cane from a teacher on something I hadn't done. Someone sitting alongside of me had done, and I got called to the front. He was giving me 5 on each hand, and I took 3 on the hand, and when he went for the 4th, I thought, I'm not putting up with this. So as the cane hit my hand, I grabbed the cane and sat on the floor, which pulled him over. So then I sat on him and gave him a few whacks. And it was the 18th of August, 10:30 in the morning, 1958. Remember it vividly. Then did I get in hell when I got home. My mum had remarried Seth Lane, who was my stepfather, and he'd just bought a butcher shop, which is only 2 houses up from me now, where we live. And next morning he said, well, you better come around and start work with me tomorrow. So I went around and became an apprentice butcher. Again, we had a few blues in life, him and I sacked myself 2 or 3 times, but eventually got through. Went to Christie's Beach to work for a while with Robin Weatherall in the 1960, I think it was. And I still remain friends with him now. He's in his 90s. And his brother-in-law, who's the same age as me, we are still like brothers from other mothers over all those years, which Kingsley, it's very, very special. So we get through that, and I got married. I went in the smelters and I worked my way up from labourer, the blast furnace, shift sampler, and then into the power plant with Russell Heine as my supervisor boss, top bloke, and worked as a trades assistant in there until I got my own position on shift and got all my licences and qualifications, diesel and steam, and did that for 12 years. Then one day I thought, I don't want to stay here doing shift work all my life. I've had enough of this. And there's a job in the bloody recorder. Industrial therapy instructor wanted at the hospital. And I thought, I'll find out what that is. And so I went and made an appointment, and they didn't really know what it was. It was just a government fund they got. And I was the only applicant, so I got the job. And what it was working with male and female patients that have had strokes or dementia or physical incapabilities. And so I set up this workshop, and it worked right up. It still is working now. I did that for a couple of years, and my first marriage split up. So I decided I'd out of Pirrie and head to Adelaide, which I did. Went away for 18 years actually. So we get to Adelaide, didn't have any money again, and wanted to buy a house, and the system had worked out this thing called bank cards. So I went to 6 banks and got 6 bank cards of $2,000 each. That gave me $12,000. I went back to them and I applied for a loan for a house, and they gave it to me. But I asked for an extra $12,000 on the loan, which I paid the bank cards out. And that's when I thought, and a lot of it come from working with old people, little characteristics they did in survival through the depression and stuff like that. And I thought, there's a system out here. Let's use it. So we got this house, and my second wife, she came from station country, and she wanted a property eventually. And that's Easter Borough, what I call Easter Borough country, where the sons inherit everything. The daughters go to private schools or whatever, but that's how it works. So Sue and I then started to in and out of houses like you wouldn't believe it. And we were making some really good money. So we entered Gawler, then I bought a place out at Malala. Lovely community again to live in and grow up. Still keep friends with lots of them. And we got to Malala and then decided we'd buy a decent property. So we went over to Kangaroo Island, paradise. Some of the most beautiful people I've ever met, and still do. We're going over in October for a fortnight again to stay with friends. And I got this property. It was 1,500 acres, 3,500 sheep. Very well set up by a lovely couple, Brian and Lynn Cross. And we got it, I think I borrowed 700,000, and we got it for 13% interest. Well, in the space of, I reckon it was 18 months to 2 years, the interest rate went to 24.3, and where I was getting 1,000 cents a kilo for my wool, that went to 300 cents a kilo. With all the pressure, and Sue and I had 2 children, by the way, with all the pressure, our marriage broke up, and I got a job at the abattoirs there, as basically because I had a steam ticket. No one on the island had a steam ticket. And I went from steam or boiler attendant to quality control production supervisor, which was good. Got lots of qualifications. I like getting qualifications. In fact, I reckon they gave me one by mistake. It's to inspect all species of meat for EEC standards, and that's higher than a meat inspector. And I've got the certificate in the shed. So anyway, working there, and then I did my back end for the second time. Had a laminectomy, that didn't work. Then went and had a spinal fusion, and the abattoirs didn't want me anymore. My marriage split up, and so I had this huge debt, paying $1,000 a week interest, and I just had enough. So this was right at the start of the rural crisis, and so I decided, again, there's a system out there, let's go and shake their cage. So I went over to Adelaide to the bank, walked in, threw my keys on their desk and said, it's yours. And they said, don't make any fuss. And I said, why? And they said, oh, it's the rural crisis. And I said, no, I won't make a fuss. They said, we just want you to sell the property. I said, okay. And we'll give you a deed of release of the debt. So I said, well, how much are we going to sell it for? They said, it's totally up to you to price it. And I said, can I have that in writing? Which they gave to me. And I flew straight back to Kangaroo Island, went into Dalgetty's office and said, sell it for 180,000. It was worth about $1 million. And he couldn't believe his eyes. They sold it in half a minute, one phone call. And the bloody bank sent me this certificate of deed of release, which I've got framed in my shed. Absolutely unbelievable. And so got out of that, and then I babysat a few houses over there for people that would alternative lifestyle. Did that for about a year. So if they were going overseas for 3 months, 6 months, a year, I'd go and babysit their house. We learnt a lot about life in general and how attitude to life. It was sort of like a real growing up mentally thing. So if I went to their house and they weren't meat eaters, I didn't have meat in the house. If they didn't drink, and I'm a big drinker, I didn't drink. Those sort of things. You'd go to some houses on the beach where had no curtains or blinds, so when it was full moon, the house inside was lit up. But they used to go for walks on the beach of a night in the full moon. So I used to do the same. Fantastic experience. I've got a very dear young friend living over there now, Tony McGuinness. He's a bit of an icon of Pirrie with trade and motorbike riding. And he's the same. He said, it's just so different over there. I did that for a while, then I went up and stayed with this mate of mine from Christie's at Surfers Paradise. Nearly shifted up there to live because in the meantime of doing this babysitting of houses, I decided I'd do a real estate licence. And I got my licence and did a bit of work experience at a couple of firms, and I just didn't like the way they operated. So I just didn't go ahead with it. So I went up to Surfers, came back, and my two eldest sons from my first marriage, who are butchers as well, were working with me on the island as in the abattoirs. And I just said to my eldest son, let's do a trip. And at that time I had a 1975 Galant, which I'd bought for $500. So Christopher and I threw our swags in the Galant and off we headed. We did a half a lap for 6 months. 2 swags a wok, not even an esky. So our meat was wrapped up in newspaper and just kept warm for a few days. And we had a ball. It was absolute fun, every minute of it. We had a thing where we'd drive 500 k's a day, and exactly 500 k's we'd pull off the road and stop. Now we didn't even know where we were half the time, and we might only be a few yards out, kilometres out of a town, but we'd just pull up on the side of the road. Met some fantastic people. I still get a couple of Christmas cards. This is going back 30 odd years ago from a couple of the old ladies that are still alive. So we did this trip, came back here. I think Christopher wanted to come back to Pirrie, so I decided to up stakes and come back. So I came back here and I thought, what am I going to do? And started a real estate office. And it did very, very well, I thought, anyway. And we did that. I did that for a couple of years. met my wife, Sandra, third marriage, the best one in the world. Real good mate she is. And I sold my business to Gary Crocker. He did very well too, and was doing nothing. I had a son and daughter by my second marriage. Got a phone call one night to pick Grant up, who was 9, from Clare car park. So I raced down there, picked him up, and had him as a sole parent. He's turned out to a fantastic kid, fantastic father, a fantastic human, mainly because of Sandra's attitude helping raise him, and Sandra's 2 kids, Natalie and Scotty. They've got good values, good ethics, empathy, and Grant's exactly the same. So I had him, and thought, well, I wouldn't mind going back into real estate, so I made an approach to Tom Wardle, and he said, away you go. And I think I started the thing with $200, $300. I used to unplug a spare phone from home and take it to plug into this little shop that I rented. I'd take a photograph, get it printed out, and I'd stick it on an A4 paper and write the description of the property there in the window, and it went ballistic to the beautiful company it is today, run by James Wardle. He's doing a fantastic job, and I'm so proud of it. Even though I went into business after that with my own business, I'm very proud of where Wardles are today. Now, yeah, so anyway, then afterwards I had a break and went into business with a partner, and it just didn't work, and decided that was it. I retired. So I was 70 when I retired. And I'd started making things in the shed with Grant when he was little out of pallets, and so I started making pallet furniture like meat safes and all that, and up to now I reckon I've cracked 700 pieces. It's gone all over Australia, to the point where I was up with Kingsley and Surfers, and he's an electrician. He took me one day, he said, we're going around this house to do a job, you come for a ride. So we went into this mansion on a canal, big double doors. And I walked straight in, and there's a little meat safe. And I just said to the woman, I made that. And she hoity-toity said, no you didn't. So I went over and I turned it around, and I had Peter Axon written on the back. Well, she freaked, and she'd bought it from a market. Her daughter had bought it from a market in Roxby. Yeah, so got a chuff there. And so even to today, I make things in the shed, because it keeps me occupied, keeps me fit, and gets the brain working. Yeah, life's enjoyable. With Sandra and I, we're trying to get away somewhere just for a couple of nights, about every 3 months. Go up to Port Douglas at least once, maybe twice a year, because my son Grant, he lives up there now with his 3 terrorists. Yeah, I like Port Douglas. So that's the sort of life journey. It's been fast and furious. They even made a movie called that. But I've enjoyed every minute. Some of the kids I grew up with and the people I've met, the Greeks and Italians, Dutch, German, here in Pirrie, like it's a multicultural town, and we all respect and love our town. Someone put a negative thing up just recently, and I went away for 18 years, and the reason I came back, I did a T-bar of positives and negatives where I wanted to live. I wanted to live in a town where a main road didn't go through the centre to split the town. I wanted a town with no graffiti. I wanted a town that was safe. I wanted the choice of shopping. I wanted somewhere to go. Well, Pirrie, you've got the water, you've got the hills, you've got the 90-mile trip around the back. You can go to the hospital any hour, any minute of the day. You can walk anywhere in 10 minutes, you can drive anywhere in 5. If you noticed the number of people walking of a morning and evening around Pirrie, you would freak compared to other places I've lived. When I did this T-bar, there was 53 police in Pirrie, and there's probably still, in the region, there probably still is that many. In real estate, the police that retired back to Pirrie, the Navy people that retired here, the Air Force and Army people that retired here, the average Pirrie person wouldn't know that, but it's just a bloody good little community. And I call them my ethnic friends. We have a lot of fun because a lot of them, like the D'Agostino family, the Raffanellis, the Pisanis, and then the Greeks, Sandanis, Fontises and all that. They say we created the environment of this town, not you, you bastards. Yeah, so we have little fun things about that. I don't disagree with them actually. Yeah, so that's why I'm here and I just love it. The only thing I have in negativity about the town is that there's a thing in this council where they go berserk on having consultants. They're too scared to make a decision. Zoning should be really overturned in this town because we haven't got the subdivisions, and the subdivisions we've got are too expensive for the average person. So the kids have got to have a huge debt or rent. That's the only really negative I've got with my community. As you get older, like the committees, the JCs, the Apex and the Lions are all getting smaller, and the younger ones don't take that up so much as like the people did in the 60s, 70s and maybe the 80s. So that's that part. And again, it's amazing being a Pirrian, where you go in the world and you meet someone that knows Pirrie or been to Pirrie or was from Pirrie. It's just ridiculous sometimes. We did a bit of travelling, and in fact Sandra and I got married in Greece because I grew up with Fontises and Mavromatises. And we met people over there that come for Greece. I get to Greece with all our paraphernalia and legal documents, and my original birth certificate is now in a safe somewhere in Athens because they said Axon's a Greek name and you haven't done military service, so we're holding your birth certificate. And Bill Sadiris told me before I went, he said, you know, you're going to get a shock when you get over and see the number of Axons, and they're everywhere. Axon Airlines in opposition to Olympic Airlines and those sorts of things. But so we were over there, we had a ball, met some people, good people. Hardest part, we flew home in the Gulf War, and that was a bit scary. I thought, I don't want to die over here. Yeah, for sure. So that's that. And then with my qualifications I've done, because I was told my dad used to be, wanted to do every qualification in the old TAFE when he was a kid. So I've even got a 16mm projectionist licence. I've got a bookbinding certificate. I did a course on bookbinding. No one has books nowadays. And I've got my butchering. I did a 12-month small goods making course at Regency Park. Yeah, just so many things. I just like doing things and knowing things. Yeah, on that. But it's been, it's so far, and it hasn't finished yet. Party's not over. I'm still having a ball. I just, Sandra and I squeeze every second out of every day. Getting to this age and being as fit as I am, I put it down to drinking. I didn't start drinking actually until I was 35, and up until I was 70, I used to smoke 60 to 80 cigarettes a day. But even now I try and drink at least one long neck a day and one bottle either white or red wine every day. And it works for me, and I'm always happy because I think I'm a happy drunk. Yeah, so that's basically rounding up me. The other part that's a treasure in my life is my sister Kerry. She's about 18 months younger than me. She's my little mother. She's looked after me through thick and thin. Always listened, said things to do, never criticised. And Mum brought us up to share. So if there was a cake and it had to be cut in half, one would cut it and the other one would have the first choice. And we're like that today. She's suffered a lot with hip operations where they put the wrong metal hip in. She's got Parkinson's. She never ever complains. I try and get over once a week to see her. But she is just the treasure in my life, and yeah, always together forever. Little Kerry, yeah, on that. I have another half sister, Annabelle, Louie, and she's fun. When she was real little, I used to do hundreds of kilometres with her in the pram when she was screaming. She wouldn't know that, but yeah, and she's turned out a nice little girl too. She's got a lot of friends, and she's in a bad way as well with her feet. And she's in a wheelchair too. Perhaps both of them don't drink. That's the reason. I often say that to my sister, but yeah, on that. Miss my mum, because she always knew. And even when I was real estate, I'd ask her about a house, and she knew who built the house, lived in it, who put the lead-like glass in the doors, all those little things. She knew. And just recently, a few friends have lost their mum, and I just said, it's going to come a day when you want to ask that question, and they're not there now. Yeah, unfortunately.
What would you like to leave with your kids?
Just keep doing things. Keep active. And really don't listen to anybody. The worst thing you can do, honestly, in life, is take advice. You've got to learn it yourself. You've got to stumble, you've got to fall over, you've got to go broke, you've got to get hurt, but you get up and just keep going. Yeah, just keep doing things. Like I got a couple of young granddaughters, Jessie and God, I'm getting old. And I'm so proud of them. They are shaking their own cage, which is good. Yeah, for sure. Jessie's a school teacher, and Emily. And Emily's got two beautiful kids. She's done a trade. She's doing exactly what she likes in work. Yep, doing it quite well. And then the three grandchildren up in Port Douglas, they're just, one's going to be an actress and one's going to rule the world, and he doesn't know whether he's going to play AFL or be the world's best chessman. And then I've got two other young grandsons, and they're into sport and doing very well with their mum, who's doing a beautiful job raising them on her own. Going back to when I lived at Malala, my former wife Sue was working at Balaclava Hospital as a physio. And so Prue was 5, Grant was 3.5, 4. And I was home babysitting them. We'd bought a property, but I had a share farmer. And I was getting over one of my spinal ops that I'd had. And I thought, what am I going to do? So I thought I'd start mucking around with horses. Because as a kid, I used to ride a fair bit. And eventually made a sulky, got a pony, broke it in, and chugged around with the kids with that. So then I started buying and selling horses. Did a trip to Tasmania, Sue and I, and by chance went to this farm where they had Clydesdales. And I just said, joking, stupidly me, if that mare ever has a foal and it's just a male, I'll buy it. Anyway, 6 months later he rings me and he says, you've got a horse over here, Peter. I said, how much? And I sent him over the money, and they brought it over to Malala on the transport. And that was my first Clydesdale. I broke Laddie in, Barrelinger gallant lad. And I took him to the Birdsville Field Days, and he was just 2 years old. And I won it. I won nearly every event. Ridden, long poling. Yep. Because I was home, and all I had to do was look after 2 kids, I had all this time. So I just put it into Laddie. Day in, day out. He could do it with his eye. He didn't need me holding the reins. And even the judges commented on me. So he went on to be that. But in the meantime, and because I had a bit of money in those days, I ended up with 5 of them. I took them all to Kangaroo Island. And I also bought another one from Tasmania, and Laddie was sort of small. He was only around about 16 hands. But this other one, he was a blue, absolutely blue Clydesdale. And he went to nearly 19 hands. He was a monster. And broke in absolutely, both of them broke in beautiful nature. Used to ride him a lot. Yeah, and the others used to, I rode them all. Used to do my stock work on horseback. But my Clydesdale experience and those boys, yes. And there's a few of my friends have got them now. Linda Smith down at Bordertown, she's got some, and then Debbie Noble out here, she's got a half one. That was just amazing what you can do with those big fellas, and the old blokes, talking to them over the years. I took Laddie down to Parham for the reenactment of the grain. So we had to stand at the water's edge, and he was in full harness. And I just said to him, move off. And he walked out into the water up to his belly and didn't bat an eyelid. When I looked back at the beach, there was 2 old blokes, old Mr. Irish, another bloke, they were crying. Now they were in their 70s, and they'd done that from when they were kids with their horses, with the grain and the catches. So little moments like that, you think, man, oh man, this is unreal. Yeah, so that was another good experience with the old horses. Yeah. My wife has this pet chook, Rhonda. She walks around. She usually owns the place. She's on the walking machine a while ago. Oh, God Almighty. Things the bloke's got to put up with, but then she's got to put up with me. But like growing up, Grandma and Grandad had a house, Hayward Avenue, by the bowling green, Woodward Park. So the park was absolute freedom. And when my mates used to all come around, my mum, Grandma and Grandad used to encourage every kid to come to their house. And no one was allowed to lean their bike on the house. Grandad had 2 posts, so you'd have 4 or 5 bikes leaned on it. And then of an evening in the summer, there'd be 11, 12 of us. He'd have over the park. We were allowed in those days before they changed the rules. Ride your bikes around. So we'd have bike races around Woodbury Park, and then he'd send up punching bags and heavy bags on the seating part. So he'd have us all like working out in those days, and when this is before the gym things. And the other thing too, Jess, they used to have the marching girls over there. So when you're a horny teenage lads, and there's my brother-in-law Bronte and Nolly Atkinson, and I could name 100 lads. We used to all go over and watch the marching girls, the Atkins girls. Yeah, amazing. Yes, yeah, for sure. And you were allowed to do those things in those days. Now they'd call you a pervert. Yeah, the old marching girls over there, and they were good. Yeah, on that. Yeah, and those things are gone. But that's in its period. Like, it was just amazing. Kerry and I, growing up with no father, we were legacy wards, and Dr. Warner Smith, George Bray, and Mr. Tom Bowden, they were our legatees, and they were so good to us. So I became a legatee of 14, 15 years ago. Been very interesting, that side of life. What I learnt so much was politicians, generally federal politicians, don't know or don't give a F about veterans. DVA is the cruelest thing on the planet to veterans or veterans' families. Like, disgusting. And but then again, all these I call them my girls, those ladies. Like, I grew up with their children, and I know them all like personally, and they know me, and they've been fun. They're like, when you drop in and see them, and always make sure that we always make sure they get a little gift every Christmas. Bugger the system. Yeah, on that. But what the system does to veterans and families is cruel. It is absolutely cruel, and it's getting worse. Yeah, and it's unstoppable. It's the culture of them. They're all on budgets and don't spend the money and don't do this and and that. But no, Legacy's been good. Had some really good, our area, what we call our area officers. Don Stewart was one. He was a regular, 3 or 4 terms in Vietnam. He was a lieutenant colonel. Yeah, Don's claim to fame in Vietnam was that if they were sent out to do a job, he would get out in the helicopter first before he sent his men out. Not once, many times. It's documented. Got in a lot of trouble with it because, like, a leading command goes out to get shot at first. Yeah. So, and like his care and consideration for veterans was just amazing. That sort of person to meet. Deanie Ryder, like Dean, he was regular, and he did Vietnam as a sergeant. But what he did for the like, we would not have that helicopter thing at the hospital if it wasn't for Dean. And Dean solely, like, he stuck his neck out and made sure it happened. At the moment, the bureaucracy are playing games with it, but just things like that. Yeah, so, the hospital there, like, working at it and knowing how that works, like, that hospital is just amazing, and the staff, and some of them, they're all not quite my age now, but some of the nurses or sisters I work with are all good-looking chickie babes at the time. You got to laugh, and they're good friends. I smile at and think about them now. Like, you got your Ann Doughtons and Leslie Pierces and those sort of girls, and they were dedicated to their job, but they were good, fun people to work with. Yeah, on that. Yes. But when the matron Gray came around, or Deputy Matron Wigglesworth, everyone stood to attention. And it's because Wigglesworth, she was ex-army, so she used to run it pretty well. Yeah. Now, this house in particular, I used to live over there with Grandma and Granddad at Woodward Park. My stepdad and Mum had the two little shops here in Natman Street. Pop had the butcher shop, Mum had the deli. Bought the block next door and built a house, number 2. So later in life, I grew up with them in my late teens in the street. But see this fence here? There's a gate. In every southern block through Natman Street, there is a side gate. So I could leave number 2, go right through to Brown's store without going out on the road or footpath. And if I wanted to raid like Wade's house, which I've bought here, they had an apricot tree. So I could come overnight, they'd just be sitting there having tea, and I'd raid the apricots. Or I could go up to Williamson's and pinch almonds or whatever. And no one knew, but there's all these gates. And I've got this mate who you must see, Barry and Helen Magor, he's a scream. Grew up with him, worked with him, now living next door. Between us and that gate, it's just heaven and fun. But yeah, so this house come on the market, and I bought it without telling Sandra. And then we've done a lot of work to it. But old Natman Street, there was 32 kids lived in the street in 1959, and there were 7 cars. The other day, I randomly counted the cars, and there's 42. They're parking out on the road now. Like, it's just crazy. Yeah, but and like, you know, when I raced through, you know, bang, Thompsons and Williamsons and Baileys, and you knew everyone was. And working in the butcher shop, they used to all come to the butcher shop. Yeah, like Jean Brackenridge interviewed the other day. She's a treasure. She is beautiful and fun. I used to serve Mrs. Brack in the shop, and they lived over on the other corner. Yeah. He was a very good boss and fitter and turner in the Smelters. Very, very good. And she was a top sportswoman. Yeah. Because the other day, her and Mrs. Lorna Spawn, something was about them, and I remember as a teenager, and I just said, when you girls, you two, used to play golf and used to wear the tartan skirts, and you used to always wear them above your knees, like, and as a teenager, I knew that. And she remembered. Both of them actually remembered. Yes. Oh, that was a no-no, like in golfing. Yeah, but little things like that, you remember, it's fun. Poor Mrs. Brack around there on Wandeer Road. Barry Magor, who's a practical joker. That's another story. He gave them some sturt pea seeds. So they planted them in rings out in the front garden. No front fence. So one day Barra's tearing off to go shopping, and Mrs. Brack's out there with a recorder taking photos, like a paper taking photos of these sturt peas, and Baz stops the car in the middle of the road, jumps out, races across and accuses her, jokingly, I gave you the damn seeds. You should have had me around here to be in the photo too. And we are always playing, Barry and I, jokes. Look, a lot of people would say we're crazy, but when they used to go away to Darwin playing bowls for 3 months, I look after their house, we go away, they look after our house. But before that, Sandra and I were babysitting a property up in the Riverlands. And part of the job was feeding cattle with pumpkins, chopping pumpkins up. So I'm in the shed this day, and there's about 40,000 million pumpkin seeds on the floor, and I thought, I'll take some of these home. So I picked up about 200 or 300, and I planted them from their front fence to the back fence, their side fence to side fence, their pot plants, everything. Well, we had some good rains. Well, when they came home, they couldn't back the van down the driveway for pumpkins.
Oh no.
Helen, she nearly had a nervous breakdown. And I'm saying it's like it's the day of the Triffids have arrived. And she's standing, she says, look, there's only that little bare patch there, Peter. And I said, have a look at it. And there was one pumpkin that had just popped up. Oh, she went to pieces. Oh, yeah. And then Barry said that he was going to shift my letterbox. That's going to be the payback. He's going to shift my letterbox to another part of the house. So, yeah, but this goes on all the time. Like, I'll go in there and just have a chat and he'll say, see yourself out. So on the way out, I'll switch off and unplug all the power tools in his shed. So he can't work out whether he's done it or what. Been doing that for about 4 years. Yeah, so. No. And not just Barry, it seems to be a culture in Piri that people laugh and play jokes like it's not a very serious town. Yeah.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Life's too serious sometimes.
Well, yeah, people make it serious. Yeah. It's the loop, man. Yeah.
Oh,
Like with my chooks, we only have a few eggs, and I usually I'll give you some eggs to take home. And like I'll give people eggs every now and then. Some people say to me, can you save us a dozen? But I don't want it for them. And so I've got this very dear friend, I grew up with her family and I knew her since she was a baby, Helen Deepman. Anyway, Helen says, Pete, can I have some eggs? I've got to do curried eggs for this special dinner. Yeah, not a problem, Helen. So she called to pick them up, just got the egg carton, took off, but I'd written faces on every egg and texted her. So she boiled the eggs, peeled them, and all the black had gone through on her curried eggs.
Oh no.
So I've started doing that with everybody now. Yeah. Or if any, like a lot of island people use this as a halfway house, and any of the kids come here and stay the night,
Yeah.
I say, right, now we're going down here, this in the morning when you get up, see that nest there, there's going to be eggs. And you're going to come and have them boiled or fried or poached for breakfast, or what they say. Well, they go to bed and I race down with eggs and I'll write Deacon or whatever name on the egg. So they go down to pick up their eggs and there's their egg. If there's three here, there's 3 eggs with 3 names on them. And they talk about it. Yeah. And they'll never forget it.
Yeah.
Like on the island, I used to have a lot of the kids used to sleep over and we'd have a bonfire and a barbecue and stuff, all these little tackers.
Yeah.
So this particular time I went into the hardware store and I bought 5 or 6 broom handles and I made double barrel shotguns out of wood so that we had a game to play in the scrub next day with these 5 or 7 lads. Now those kids now are in their 20s, late 20s, and all of them have still got their guns. In fact, 2 of them have asked me to make guns for their kids. Now, like nowadays, anyone's got a gun, it's a no-no. Like here, we used to ride around on our push bikes with either a slug gun on the handlebars or a 22 Winchester boys gun with a rat shot in, and we'd shoot birds out of the sky. Like, no one got hurt. But now everyone walks around with a knife in their pocket. Yeah, over there, well, I remember with the Cohen kids and the Heath kids and all that, we'd have a barbecue or something, and they're all little tackers. And they'd say, we're going to go looking for snakes. And like, they've got bloody tiger snakes over there. And they'd wander off, and Prue, she was 5 and 6. And Sue and I would pack her lunch and a little bottle of water. And that'd be at 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, and we wouldn't see her till 4 o'clock. And she'd come home with either 5 or 6 sheep's heads or a handful of bird of paradise peacock feathers, wandering around out in the scrub. The dog would be following, old Jock would be following her,
Yep.
but freedom. Well, with my grannies up the port, I try and write every 3 months a letter, and a couple of our friends that have got kids that know me quite well, I write them a letter and I demand a letter back. And I've got them all in a cupboard alongside my bed, and it's great to read them.
Yeah.
Like they're all over the place in the spelling, but at least they're doing it.
Yes.
Yeah, and cooking. Like I've got one granddaughter that's a bit fussy in her eats, and I'll get her and I say, right, Ivy, it's just you and me, none of these others here. We're going in that kitchen and we're going to make some scones, and we're going to do it in real clean utensils, and I'll make sure, because that's what she's like, see, so I establish, look, I'm with you, man, and she makes these scones and like us. And she only does that when I'm there, because they are the future. Different, but they're future. A lot of people say I don't never shut up, but anyway. The other thing is I don't listen. I don't listen. But I'm really happy with Sandra's kids. Like, they've just taken me in, and they're Butte kids, and we've had a lot of fun and a lot of trips together, and yeah, real good. Real good.
They still live here too?
Yeah, Natalie's got Beauty for You. Sandra, she wanted to be a beauty therapist, so Sandra bought the shop and Sandra ran it. Natalie headed off, I think, for 6 or 7 years to Cairns, and met this lad, Dave, came home, got married, and come back, and she's run the shop. She's won Salon of the Year Fairleigh Bashite. I think it's 2 times, but might have been 3. Won 2 trips to Paris with it. So she's done well there. And Scotty's electrician, and, well, beautiful. Measure twice, cut once. That's how he's pretty fussy and neat and tidy. Only yesterday we put these up, and I just said, now Scott, don't forget, measure twice and cut once. Yeah, so. It was funny, it was Sandra and Scott, and I gave up trying to get this zip to work. I reckon it was made by a Martian. Definitely. Yeah. I don't know whether your camera can pick the stones up out there.
Yeah.
But part of, there's river stones there, but everywhere Sandra and I have camped or visited, I've brought a stone back. And there's probably 60 stones in there. If I get enough time, I can tell you where we actually were. My friend that's up at Service, Kingsley, had a business, Stitch and Print, and he used to sell stubby holders. Yeah. And he used to sell into Queensland and Northern Territory like you would not believe it. And he used to sell cigarette lighters. And every now and then he'd get 200 or 300 boxes, but out of those boxes 10 of them would be defects. So when you light it, like the flames up here, so Christopher and I, my eldest son and I, were up there, and Kingsley gave us a few boxes. The reason being, so when we had our barbecues, and because the boys were living with me at the end over on the island, everyone used to pinch our cigarette lighters. So we used to just leave these laying around. So people used to pinch them. And as soon as they lit them, they didn't have any eyebrows. And after a while, the people that used to come to the barbecue stopped pinching lighters. And Chris used to say, it's getting to the stage where I don't know whether the good ones now was the bastard to take more. So it's been a really good life, Jess. Probably the highlight was living on Kangaroo Island and the people there. Yeah, just unique. And because they're all, soldier settlers, they had the really good attitude, and the government misled them to start with, and they all worked their guts out. Different. I actually got elected to council over there, and that was very good. Well, see, when Chris and I did our trip, we did it on the Dole, and we just winged it, and it was amazing. Amazing. We're at Mataranka and we pulled up, and all we had was the fee, the money for 2 nights in the caravan park, and 2 casks of wine, and nothing, no food, and 2 swags. But we did something for some people up there who loved us for life. And after we'd done this thing, we ejected some people from the caravan park. The kids were running amok. An old lady she was selling paintings, little paintings, and they would come along and knock on her, and the parents wouldn't do anything. We saw this happening, so we went and re-educated the parents. All these other people come across and said, when you come for tea tonight, we'll shout your drink. I said, well, we've got no money and we're not coming over there. We're just going to go hungry for 24 hours or so. Well, they end up shouting us meals and drinks and stuff. And this old lady, she came over to us and thanked us so much. And she was from Noosa. And she had a bit of paper written out and signed and dated. And she said, and it was boys, when you get to Noosa, this is my address. Go to the neighbour next door and you can stay in my house for a couple of weeks. There's food in the freezer. And we had it in the car. And when we're coming down the east coast, we decided we're getting broke, so we're going to try this out. So we went and knocked on the door, and who should be there to walk out? John Williamson. And I gave him the note, and he said, well, you must be special. And he said, how long are you staying, boys? And we said, 3 or 4 nights. And he said, well, tonight I'm going to the hotel part to play. Come along. At my expense. And so, raised the gland down there. Oh dear, yeah. And then, people, I'll say it, stop by the cops on the highway and they make you strip the car and empty the glove box and unscrew the bloody gear stick to see what's in there. And they were experiences, not a negative. We had Chris and I'd sit out on the ground and these coppers had stripped we had to pack it all back again, but yeah, it was fun. Absolute fun. Found anything yet, boys? Shut up. Jesus Christ. Yeah. Got done twice like that. So no, Kangaroo Island, the horses, and all of my kids and grandkids, I'm so proud of them all. Well, the other thing, I've been an extra in a few movies. My beautiful sister, said, there's an advert for extras in this movie. You got to go to Hawker. No, yeah, Hawker. So anyway, Sandra said, go. So I went up and there's this movie being made called One Night the Moon, starring Paul Kelly. So I get up there and they cut my hair because it was set in the 20s and put a part in it. Anyway, they said, all right, you're an extra, but you want to be in charge of security? I said, oh, well, I'll do anything to help you out. So anyway, it ended up Rachel Perkins was the director, beautiful person. And this bloke I was driving around in this Toyota with this bloke, and I said to him on about the third or fourth day, I said, listen, I know you from somewhere. And he says, do you, Pete? I said, yeah. I said, who the effing are you? And he goes, well, keep thinking. And this went on for another day or so, and he played along with it. And it works out it was Chris Haywood, who's the actor, who, again, is a treasure. And he had a part in it, but he was also the gopher. And on our last night of filming out at this not Mount Searle, between Hawker and Parachuna, because I was living at this homestead, looking after all the gear, Chris made this big bonfire and he organised some chops. We finished about 3 o'clock in the morning, so he had this barbecue going, and we finished the thing, and everyone, all the, as I call them, kids, there was about probably 20 of us, and they came out with their guitars. Well, Kelly had the guitar. His wife, she wasn't in the movies, but they divorced because their daughter was in the movie as well. She used to be on Play School. Short girl, black hair. And we had a Paul Kelly concert. And of course, one night the moon was still up, a full moon, and we were out there by this fire. And it was just an absolute experience on that. And I got my name in the credits as security of a movie production. Man.
How long ago was that?
I'll be nearly 10 years ago, easy. Yeah. And then I did another one just recently, not recently, Tracks. I did a bar scene in that. But yeah. But that was very, very good. It was put out, it hit the market at the same time as Rabbit Proof Fence, and Rabbit Proof Fence got the public's attention more than One Night at the Moon, because there's a good story behind it. Yeah, on that, at a Paul Kelly concert. And that was just, like Kerry's saying, you've got to go and do this. Yeah. Okay, yes. Whatever you say, I'll do. I've got a nephew by my second marriage, Clayton Watson. He's an actor, very, very good actor. He was the boy in The Matrix. Yeah, he's very good. He's up Surfers he lives now, or out in the hills. Then my daughter by my second marriage, Prue, little Prue, she went to university. She went to university 10 years. We thought she was going to be a professional uni student. No offence, Prue. Anyway, she qualified, and graduation day, she got the highest marks ever recorded in Adelaide Uni. Where was Prue? On a plane to Spain. Didn't give a damn. I'm heading off for a year. So she went around Spain for a year in a little old battered camper van. Yeah, how pretty. Yeah, so. And then she did another trip and came back and ended up at Port Douglas and got a job with Quicksilver, because she can speak Japanese and Chinese. And she can pick Japanese and Chinese as they walked in the door, apparently, and just speak to them in their own language. Yeah, but she's had this brain aneurysm or something like that, and she's not travelling real well in life. Yeah, the operation never worked. Poor little bugger. You ready? Age of 4, reading the Reader's Digest. She could read at 4. Read. I'll add to Prue. When Sue had Prue, it ended up a caesarean because the gynaecologist and I had a debate. He once told me his father was a butcher, so I called him a butcher. Sue was 14 days over. And I said, listen, your wife and all you medical people, you give your wives cesareans. This has happened now. You got to give her a cesarean. So anyway, I was ordered out of the hospital. Went home to Gawler, got a phone call. Come down, we're going to give Sue a cesarean. So I walk in and they got this tape across the doorway. And 2 nurses said, you can't go any further than that tape. He did the cesarean and went out the back door. Prue came out pink, ready to play badminton. Man, oh man, she was on a high. Well, Sue had postnatal depression and we had this screaming kid. And just, she wouldn't sleep, wouldn't rest. Oh, wow. In one of those station cots, she scratched her head, like rubbing up and down. This went on for nearly 12 months. So it's at least 9 months. And we were beside herself. She was having two bottles of Valergan a week, and it wouldn't touch her, man. And we came across this family therapist called Wayne McLeod, and we had a consultant with him, and he videoed Prue on the ground, like in the room, just moving around, knocking things and just falling. And he said, I want you to do something, and you're going to have to be the main one, Peter. He said, you pick her up and you sit her on you with her legs there and her arms under you, and you give her strong physical support and no emotional. Watch TV, talk, whatever. And she will settle down. So anyway, I didn't do the hold there, so we went home and Prue was carrying on. So I held her for an hour and a half, screaming. She was sweating because they had to hold. And all of a sudden, she went to sleep. I did that hold 5 times and Prue became the most gentle, relaxed little child on the planet. I've since done it to 3 of my friends' children. This Wayne McLeod was telling us after the number of marriages that break up because of that child, and it might be ADHD, whatever it is, but they don't commit to the, I know it works, but it was just amazing when she just did this, and she went to sleep. Like we both looked at each other. God almighty. Yeah. But, yeah. The other thing with this ADH, is it ADHA or something like that? ADHD. Sandra and I were having a wine the other night, and I just said, you know, the world in 15, 18 years' time is going to be the most fantastic place to live in. Because we're all going to be governed and run and thought for by ADHD, whatever it is. All that energy from these people will be running the world. I think it's friggin' good. It's going to be so different. He can, like, and I'm not saying that negatively, it's just like turning a new page. We might have caused it by chemicals and stuff, plastics or whatever, but she's a new page. Well, start buying the book now. Yeah, for sure. Like, I can't believe that, like, where the last 30 years are gone. So that's about it, I reckon, young Jess.